Hey everybody, this is TimeRider with my submission to the Three Blind Mice December Invitational, the 1964 Pontiac Grand Prix. This, of course, is a remake of the 1-75 original number 22C, which was red as a regular wheel, and purple, although not really this purple, as a superfast. Pontiac produced the car from 1962 until 2008. Of course, they went out of business in 2010 or 11. I actually owned two Grand Prix. One was a 1963. It was blue, and it was a feature-rich, luxury full-sized car. I also had a brown 1975. Also included many bells and whistles. I will say, through no fault of their own, they were rolling junk, and each met similar fate, probably as a refrigerator, at the very least as a cube. I owned lots of cars like that when I was a kid. Anyway, when George selected this casting, I'll admit to being a bit stymied. There are a few directions that a person could go, but the car is elegant as it sits as well, so even an upgrade would be an upgrade. They used to call them Pontiac wide tracks. Anyway, I'll give it a lash, so stick around. Not really George's fault, but this is not a really good casting. And I don't mean what it is, because I really like what it is. I'm just not a fan of having so much of the bottom of it be plastic. There's parts of this casting that are plastic that ought to be a part of the metal. If it was just the chassis, I wouldn't care. But it came apart fairly easily, and so let's drop it in the goo, huh? Now, one thing I thought it might be kind of neat to do with this, and this is the part some people might object to, is I thought this car might look really good as a convertible. So out comes my jeweler's saw. And then next thing you know, it's a convertible. I was concerned about the strength because of how thin that area is beneath the door. The roof was a lot of the strength of the casting, so I'm going to have to address that in some manner. My Grand Prix had something, it had all kinds of stuff. It had a deal on the center console that was supposed to be like a mileage meter. Ooh, transport graphics and the Anderson Oiler. It was like a mileage meter, and basically all it was a vacuum gauge. So when you stepped on the gas, it flew over into the red, and when you were cruising down the highway, it was in the green. Just going to need to put a couple button screws in here because I got to put it back together at some point, right? Yeah, I kind of wish the whole front grille... I got a short fill. That was really fun too. So what I did is I used resin to build the grill back up so I'd have something to paint anyway. And then I picked a new set of wheels. They're Greenlight GM pack. I was just going for a kind of a stock look, but still like a rally sport wheel. So, just so you know, I actually glued the doors in. So it's not going to have opening doors anymore, but I wanted to do something to put some strength and structure back into the casting, so that's what I decided to do. And the casting itself, again, the doors had like divots on the front of them, like short fills. It's really disappointing to see how far down some of these castings have gone. I don't know if you recall, I did a Ranchero a while ago, and once you got the paint off it looked like hell. This one, it wasn't much different. And it wasn't just one door, it was both of them. So I used some glazing and spot buddy, and then I painted again. What this is Redline Shop base coat, which I really like because it's like a metal flake, but the flakes aren't just enormous. And honestly, I was perfectly happy with the purple. You know me, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. My Grand Prix, the radio had a thing called reverb, which was actually kind of popular for a little while. There's a speaker between the back seat that's tied into your radio, and you have a knob. And what the knob does is it makes an echo from the back seat, so it sounds like you're in a concert hall. I had to work a little bit on the glass. I cut the glass in half, but I needed to shape it because it's really thick, and I didn't want it to be too obvious, but that was going to be almost impossible. But I figured I'd do my best at it. Be careful here too, not to scratch it with the end of my X-Acto knife. The base I just painted, I painted it black. The interior I decided to do in a flat white. And then I was going to paint some detail on it, which I did. And I don't really have any footage of. In fact, this is kind of the last footage I have. So without any further ado, let's take a look where I wound up. So I painted the bumpers with my chrome pens, and I detailed around the headlight housings as well as the taillight housings. It kind of would have been nice if the bottom part of that would have been in a part of the casting, but I gave a touch to the door handles. The boot, I made that out of just a piece of styrene. I suppose I could have included some footage, but it wasn't really that complicated. I apologize for not showing you the detailing. I know a lot of people like to see that, but I didn't. So here it is. There'll be an episode of The Bench afterwards if you're into that kind of thing. This is TimeRider, and I'll leave the light on for you. Hey, thanks for hanging around for this edition of The Bench. All I really want to talk about today is actually the bench. When I started doing this, my shop, such as it were, was two 20-year-old desks that happened to be the same, at least for the most part. What they actually were was leftover workstations from when I ran a computer business out of my home. That's a whole nother story. As the hobby grew for me, so did my bench, but it was not by a meticulously coordinated plan. No. You need space, so you shove something aside until the bench grew off of all the surfaces and onto the floor. The bottom line is I have too much wasted space. I also know that below the carpeted floor is a linoleum floor that would be much easier to clean when things get spilled. It is, after all, a shop. The bottom line is, while you guys are watching videos, today I'm going to be tearing apart my shop so I can install some countertop and have one uninterrupted 15-foot surface. We Little Cars is closed until the job is done. Have a great weekend.